Campus chaos. Multiple arrests at NC Central University after a protest over student housing turns confrontational. Then, a boyfriend arrested while training for the Army states away after his girlfriend's remains are found in a body of water in North Carolina.
The coldest night of the week. Who could see plunging temperatures and frost potential before we warm back up in a big way?
It's certainly a cat and mouse game with the evolution of technology.
Reprogramming keys and cloning cars, thieves making it more difficult for law enforcement. How RPD's team tackling auto thefts is making a dent on the problem.
So what a story we saw played out today. This is a big crowd of protesters on the campus at NC Central University today. Police detained several people, including a history professor at one point. Thank you for joining us here at 7 o'clock. I'm Dan Haggerty. So organizers say this protest was all about student housing and some of the conditions that people were complaining about there. WRAL's Willie Danley joining us live tonight on campus. Things obviously have calmed down a lot, but give us an idea of how things wrapped up and where we stand tonight, Willie.
Well, gotcha, Dan. As you can imagine, this campus looks very different than it did a little bit over an hour ago. We spoke to several students, and they tell us the reasoning behind this protest was to have their voices heard and to bring attention to their living conditions. They tell us that they didn't expect for things to get as tense as they did with law enforcement. Take a look at this video. This is what we captured here when we arrived on the scene. According to NCCU, 5 people have been detained. WRAL was able to capture 3 of those arrests on camera. At least 3 of those people arrested are not affiliated with the university, according to NCCU. All of them have been charged with second-degree trespassing, failure to disperse, resisting, delaying, or obstructing a public officer. Take a listen to this. We spoke to some students here about what happened today and why they came out to protest in the first place.
It was supposed to be a peaceful protest until the officers started putting their hands on us and spraying us with bear mace. What was that? Bear mace or stuff?
Yeah, they was like trying to threaten us to get back with the bear mace. They got the big guns out. I feel like it's not necessary for all of that. We're just trying to be heard. That's all it is. Trying to get our housing. We're paying for our housing.
NCCU maintains that individuals or groups who are not affiliated with this university can't just walk onto campus and hold demonstrations. We have reached out to both NCCU and DPD to find out what's next for those 5 people arrested today. We're going to stay on top of this story in Durham. Willie Danley, WRAL News.
See what they say, Willie. Thank you. So tonight, the man accused of killing this Fayetteville woman is behind bars. This is Annie Locke. She was reported missing back in October, and investigators found her body this past Sunday. Now, her boyfriend faces charges. WRAL's Aaron Thomas is live for us tonight in Fayetteville. The suspect in this case, Aaron, was actually already in custody in Missouri. Give us an idea of why and where we're at this point in the investigation.
Sure, Dan. So here's the deal. So we're told by Army officials that Tyreek Williams, he was currently in Missouri for basic Army training at this point, and so that is hundreds of miles away from where we're standing right now. Now, we're currently in this neighborhood of Fayetteville because this is the neighborhood where Annie Locke's sister and mother live. We just wrapped up within the past 10 minutes an interview with them. They tell us that, of course, that they have a sense of closure with these charges announced, but this is certainly not how they wanted their loved one to be found. You're looking at pictures right now of 24-year-old Annie Locke. Now, her family tells WRAL that they spoke with her in August of last year, but she was first reported missing the following October. Now, at this point, Tyreek Williams is charged with murder and concealing the death of Annie Locke. Earlier this week, authorities in Robinson County located her body off of NC 72 Highway in Red Springs. Locke's sister, she found her sister's absence out of place.
I knew something was wrong because she would never leave her child. She would never be gone this long. That's like my best friend. It's the other half of my heart. We lived so close, and how didn't I know? And I can't blame myself, but how didn't I know? And I just don't want to relive that again. I'm glad it's here, but this is not it.
Yeah, and her sister had so many great things to say about Annie, including how she was nice and how creative she was. Now, there are plans for Williams to be extradited back here in North Carolina, but right now he's currently in detention in the state of Missouri. As for the family members, they say their priority is making sure that nice arrangements are made for Annie and also getting custody of her 2-year-old daughter. Aaron Thomas, WRAL News, live in Fayetteville.
Thank you, Aaron. This is Carly Haynes in the WRAL Live Center. We are giving you a live look at the state legislative building. Right now, state lawmakers are debating the Senate budget proposal. This is a $32.6 billion proposal. Now, they have been debating since 2:30 this afternoon. A lot of back and forth, more than 20 amendments made since. Now, state Senate Republicans, they want additional state income tax cuts. Democrats tried to file an amendment to freeze them where they are. Republicans since shot it down. And this proposal also includes a 1.25% raise for most state workers, more for law enforcement, for teachers, and for state prison officials. So a lot of back and forth once again. No vote yet this late into the evening.
Thank you. The debate continues. Appreciate the report. So a frost advisory is in effect tonight for a handful of counties in our area. That includes Durham and Orange. And Kat, it's getting cold once again overnight. Could dip into the 30s for some folks.
Absolutely. We're talking frost and we're talking nearly 90 degrees. We've got a little bit of everything, of course, this week. The frost advisory does not include Raleigh or Wake County. I do want to be clear on that, but it does include Durham as well as Chapel Hill. Those are some of the counties included. Our northern counties like Person, Granville, and Vance. And then the western part of our viewing area, the Sand Hills, Sanford, you're included in this frost advisory from 3 to 9 a.m. It gets chilly for everybody, cold enough for a jacket for sure. 37 in Roxborough, 39 in South Hill, 38 in Clarksville, and 37 in Siler City, 40 in Durham, 41 for Raleigh and Wilson. 43 in Fayetteville tonight, 41 in Smithfield, and 38 degrees in Sanford. It's going to be chilly out there. Today is the anniversary of the April 16th, 2011 tornado outbreak, though. We're going to revisit that coming up.
All right, talk to you then. Thank you, Kat. So the clock is ticking for the Afghans who received that letter from the Department of Homeland Security, the letter that said that their parole was terminated and that they have 7 days to leave the country. For many Afghans who received this email you see here, the big question is, what should they do? Should they stay or should they go? We reached out to an immigration attorney who has been guiding people through all of this. Her advice, she says, is case by case with each person, depending on where they are in that asylum seeking process.
So from a general standpoint, my clients who have either collateral relief or actual relief that will be filed before the court, I will advise them to stay the course because they have fully pursued their rights under the law.
She says her biggest piece of advice for anyone who has received this letter is to certainly seek legal advice before making any lasting decisions. Two people charged in a deadly road rage shooting made their first appearance in court today. This is Travis Jones and Marquita Blue. They're both charged with first-degree murder for firing into an occupied vehicle. 63-year-old Broderick Hines was shot on I-85 in Butner on Monday. Witnesses helped investigators to track down those two suspects. Both of them remain in jail tonight with no bond. Right now, parents and school employees are sharing their thoughts about the possible budget cuts in Wake County Public Schools. The proposal includes some cuts to staffing, supplies, and even dental insurance. A public input session runs until 8:15 at Abbott's Creek Elementary. There is one more session scheduled for later this month in Raleigh if you can't make it to the one happening now. It's on April 23rd at Southeast Raleigh YMCA.
I hate that the burden is on counties all across the state. Like the General Assembly also has to do their job. For decades, they have underfunded schools. The Senate's budget is dismal. A 3.3 increase over 2 years doesn't even account for inflation and the cost of living in this state.
The board could vote on a budget, they say, as early as May 7th. Hey, if you play the lottery here in North Carolina, there's this new bill that could allow winners to keep their privacy after they win. It would apply to people who claim big jackpots, so anything over $5 million or more. State officials say, look, identifying winners and telling their stories, it does help advertise the lottery, but at the same time, it can make those folks the target of harassment by outsiders or even family members.
The friends and family that come out of the woodwork and make requests, and how many professionals show up at his front door.
So a Senate committee approved this bill this morning, and current law right now allows winners of $50 million or more to keep their identities confidential. But anything under than that, and it becomes public record. Anybody can find out who won. North Carolina lawmakers today agreed to water down that idea they had to invest the state pension plan into Bitcoin. The new version of the bill now follows widespread criticism from state workers and retirees. Lawmakers agreed to cut the amount of pension funds that could be invested into cryptocurrency from 10% potentially down to a max of 5%. They also agreed to put some more safeguards in place for oversight of future investment strategies. That is something that State Treasurer Brad Briner talked about when we spoke last month.
If I wanted to go back to the office right now and buy $20 billion of Microsoft stock, I can just do that. And I've got a trading desk and everything. I don't need to even sign anything. It's verifiably insane from a checks and balances and controls perspective. Now, thankfully, we've had dedicated public servants in this role, so we've never had a problem around that. But you can imagine the problems you could have. So that's the first reason. The second reason is that we elect this job every 4 years. And everybody likes to change investment strategies when they come in. And the enemy of long-term investment strategies is changing it every 4 years. So that's kind of what we've seen. So what we'd like to do is build a staggered board that creates that longevity. It diversifies who can make these decisions.
And I guess lawmakers like the changes that were proposed here to this bill today. They were enough to win approval from the State Employees Association as well. A vote on this could come up as soon as next week. You know, we'll be watching it for you. So coming up, remember Gone in 60 Seconds? Gone in 60 Seconds. That's the movie. Nick Cage, you remember it. It might have seemed like fiction 20 years ago, but these days, car thieves, they can steal a set of wheels in a flash. They have cloned identification numbers, reprogrammed key fobs, all kind of tech-savvy methods. Raleigh police are sharing how they plan to stop this after the break. Plus, tonight's One Last Thing takes us back to 2011 when 30 tornadoes hit North Carolina all in the same day. We're back after this. There's a new proposal at the legislature, and it could limit solar development in North Carolina. This is the so-called Farmland Protection Act. It would cap solar development to no more than 20% of a county's agricultural land, and then also block new utility-scale solar projects. It would also cut the current 80% property tax break for solar systems, cut that in half. Now, despite the name saying that it's farmland protection, some farmers actually say that those changes could threaten their livelihoods.
We depend on those dollars that we receive annually from the solar provider entering into our retirement age years, and we certainly appreciate the opportunity that we have to receive those funds. Secondly, right now the farm economy is absolutely absurd.
Seeing none, I think this would be the
So supporters of this bill argue that it's about preserving farmland and ensuring solar projects are built on less productive land, places like contamination sites, for instance. The bill is still in committee. Lawmakers could make some changes, of course, before it heads to a vote. Keep our eyes on it. Car thefts have been on the rise for years, more and more each and every year. Over the last year, Raleigh police, they've recovered $3.5 million worth of stolen cars. And they're not recovering every single car that's stolen. But the thieves are also not hotwiring the cars like they used to in the movies. They have some much more advanced techniques nowadays, and they're making a huge profit in the process. Here's WRAL's Sean Gallagher.
From Western Boulevard to West Africa.
And we're tracking a car in Ghana right now.
Vehicles stolen from Raleigh are popping up globally. Lieutenant John Black with Raleigh Police's Auto Theft Task Force says a car stolen off the streets of Raleigh could come with colossal cash for crooks.
You could take a $50,000 car in the United States, it gets put on a container ship, shipped to Ghana, Africa, and ultimately that's a $200,000 car there.
For that kind of money, thieves' strategies are getting much more complex. By cloning cars. Thieves are taking that VIN from under the windshield and duplicating it, making it almost impossible to tell the difference between the legitimate vehicle and the stolen one, hiding in plain sight.
So some of them are very, very good at what they do.
Of the 121 stolen vehicles recovered over the last year, about half were cloned, according to Black. It's why RPD is training its officers and others across Wake County to be on the lookout for cloned vehicles.
When an officer were to pull it over and run its tag on its face, it looks like a legitimate vehicle, but in reality, it's cloned or has been revinned to hide its stolen status.
And that's only the beginning. changing. Keys are being reprogrammed for vehicles and other tech-savvy theft methods.
It's certainly a cat and mouse game with the evolution of technology and the adaptation that these criminal organizations are using to steal these cars. It's ever changing.
Nearly 2,500 vehicles were stolen last year, a record in the same year the task force was created.
Did it have an impact last year, or are you only now starting to see the improvement this year?
It did have an impact. The last few months of 2024, we saw a reduction in motor vehicle thefts through November and December, and we've carried on that reduction in 2025 month over month to where we sit today.
So if Raleigh follows the 5-year trend on stolen vehicles by quarter, we're on pace for a 13% decrease in vehicle thefts, the first decrease since the pandemic.
We're certainly on the right track, and we're trending in the right direction with the reduction this year so far.
In the task force's first 10 months, they've issued charges in 370 felonies, 42 misdemeanors, and 114 juvenile petitions. In Raleigh, Sean Gallagher, WRAL News.
Thank you to Sean. Meteorologist Kat Campbell joining us now as we look at this forecast. I love this time of year. You need like literally every season worth of outfits sometimes to get through a day. It is going to be in the 30s tomorrow.
Absolutely. I mean, you need your jackets tomorrow. You're going to be in shorts, T-shirts, and sunglasses this weekend. Everybody knows in North Carolina, you can't quite change out your closet seasonally. Hopefully you've got enough space. 37 in Roxborough at the bus stop tomorrow morning, 40 in Durham, 41 for Raleigh and Rocky Mount, Fayetteville in the mid-40s to start the day. But by the afternoon, we're back up to 71. It'll be a little bit warmer than today, otherwise partly cloudy and very nice later in the day. We'll start out with sunshine at least. It has been breezy today. The wind settles down a bit overnight. We'll see a wind around 10 miles per hour at times, but tomorrow won't be quite as windy. The thing about the wind, though, is even though the pollen count is quickly waning in terms of the tree pollen, yesterday's wind took any of those little pollen particles that are still on any surface and it just lifted them right up into the air for us to breathe in. So the pollen count was pretty high again today. Tree pollen and grass pollen is now high as well. The predominant tree pollen types are pine pollen, oak, mulberry, and birch. Grass pollen is the one that comes later on in the season. So usually the second half of April, we quickly see our tree pollen back off, and that's what's happening. The tree pollen is really going to quickly back off here now, and in May, that's when grass pollen typically peaks, but we're starting to see that climb in grass pollen a little bit early, but not too far from normal. We're back to summer-like warmth here pretty soon, though. The ridge of high pressure is building in, and with it, we're going to see temperatures keep climbing. We've got a nice southwest wind. It's going to be breezy Friday and Saturday, and because of the strong southwest wind, we actually bumped up our highs for the weekend. 89 on Saturday, 86 on Sunday. There will be an increase in some upper level clouds in the area on Sunday, but all around it looks like a great Easter weekend. Long range, we're looking at above normal temperatures through the end of the month of April as well, and above normal precipitation during that time frame. Of course, it's peak severe weather season, and with a precipitation outlook that looks like this, it is a bit suspicious. So we're going to have to watch for perhaps some stronger storm systems to develop as we head into the end of the month. In the meantime, enjoy the beautiful weather for the weekend. Make your plans outside. Our lows climb back into the 60s, so it won't be as cool in the morning. Our next best chance for rain comes Monday night into Tuesday, Dan.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kat. One last thing to talk about tonight. The tornado outbreak that hit our state 14 years ago today. WRAL meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner has a look back for you after the break. One last thing. Today marks 14 years since a deadly tornado outbreak in North Carolina. 2011, 30 tornadoes hit the state that day. EF3s hitting Raleigh, Fayetteville, and Sanford. Dozens of homes were destroyed. 24 people were killed. Tonight, we take a look back at that day, a reminder of what severe weather can do to our community. Thanks for making WRAL your choice for local news. We leave you with this story from WRAL meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner.
Oh, man. The day before in the Deep South.
We got 2, 3.
Foreshadowing what would come to the Tar Heel State April 16th, 2011.
It was huge, huge.
One mobile home, it looked like, was tossed on top of another.
Holy cow. How long did it last?
What seems like forever was probably 20, 30 seconds.
The tornado outbreak was unusual, but no surprise. We had been talking about the possibility in the Weather Center for days. By midday Saturday, April 16th, the Storm Prediction Center was so confident they issued a very high alert for the area, a designation they hadn't used here in nearly a decade. And it would be 8 years until they issued another.
Unbelievable, really. I mean, you didn't know what was going on outside, but you could hear it tearing in the house.
2:53 p.m., a tornado slammed down in Sanford, the most destructive storm of the day.
That's when everything just started blowing. So we all hit the floor. It was over in a matter of minutes.
Moving northeast at 500 yards wide, the storm hit Holly Springs in southern Wake County.
And I look at the window and it was all dark and all the wind and a lot of stuff like floating everywhere.
Next was the capital city. The National Weather Service office was in the path of the storm. Staff there took shelter, handing off responsibility of the storm for 7 minutes to the Blacksburg, Virginia office.
The storm destroyed homes at the Stony Brook Mobile Home Park off Brentwood Road.
The storm continued traveling a total of more than 65 miles, finally dissipating on the far side of Roanoke Rapids just before 5:30 p.m. Meanwhile, another storm was spotted at 3:31 in Hoke County. Within 15 minutes, it was a tornado, an EF3 that touched down, carving a path 800 yards wide.
Everything's destroyed. Everything's gone.
While that was going on, the late afternoon saw even more devastation. At 4:33, a storm crossed the Bladen-Cumberland County line. It was an EF2 tornado that killed 3 people as it moved toward Clinton and Sampson County.
Can't imagine how you felt when you looked to see everything just demolished.
By 5 p.m., the storm weakened. The tornado dissipated after 30 minutes of destruction, leaving scars for a lifetime.